Hey everyone, Callum from Cagefront here, and welcome back to the channel. And if you are new here, welcome to the channel. Now we have UFC Fight Night, Anthony Hernandez versus Michel Pereira coming up this weekend with an absolute banger of a card leading into UFC 308, which is going to be one of the best cards of the year. In this card, we have Charles Johnson aiming to go on a 4-fight win streak just this year. We have Kyler Phillips aiming to beat Rob Font to get into the top 10 of the 135-pound division. And of course, in the main event, we have Anthony Hernandez and Michel Pereira, who stylistically are not going to fail to put on a great fight. And in this card, I'm going to be predicting every single fight, breaking down every single matchup, and also breaking down and predicting all of the best moments on this card. So without further ado, let's get into the first fight of Robelis Despaigne versus Austen Lane, an absolute banger of a fight card opener. I mean, these guys are massive and they both have KO power, but let's be honest here. Despaigne, all around, the much better striker here. Austen Lane, he is able to compete with the reach and everything of Despaigne in terms of height and legs, but not with the hands. 4-inch reach advantage for Robelis Despaigne, and Austen Lane, the biggest issue for him, doesn't have the takedown offense to get Despaigne down and hold him there for 15 minutes. And if this is going to stay on the feet, Robelis Despaigne is going to get a KO TKO finish pretty easily. I think this is going to happen in the first round. If it's not going to be a like Waldo Cortez Acosta or a fighter that's higher than him that has the takedown offense, then that's going to be a severe issue. And plus, with that Waldo Cortez Acosta fight for Robelis Despaigne, he would have only learned from that. So his takedown defense hopefully would have improved, and definitely improved enough to stop Austen Lane's attempts. So Despaigne, first round, is going to chin him. Moving up the card in the complete opposite direction of the weight scale, we have Melissa Martinez versus Elise Ardelean. Now, Martinez, she lost her debut against Reed, who's fighting literally next up on the card. But with her, she's fast, she's got KO power. She also has a higher accuracy of striking. So her strike accuracy is a bit better. She's pretty good on the outside as well. Good front leg side kicks, and just obviously having the longer reach as well. She's just a bit better at landing the shots, just getting in the range to land better shots overall. She's just ultimately a bit better of a striker. And I will say, when it comes to Elise Ardelean, with her fighting in orthodox and then having Martinez fighting in southpaw, Martinez loves inside leg kicks, and if she can utilize those a lot while fighting on the outside, she can chop down Elise Ardelean's lead leg, which can then cause issues for Ardelean when it comes to the wrestling. Now, the wrestling is where Ardelean needs to absolutely utilize that part of the game. I mean, Melissa Martinez has no experience in the wrestling, no offensive ground threat whatsoever, but Martinez does have the better gas tank, I'm going to say, at least from what we've seen so far. But Elise Ardelean, she's not too bad on the feet. I mean, she's got a good jab, she's got very good control in the clinch, and is just stronger than Melissa Martinez. Aside from her gas tank, she's stronger, got a good jab, she's got good front leg side kicks as well. And Ardelean has fought better competition in her career. I mean, up to a certain point, she had only lost to Zhang Weili in her career. So she does have the strength. She's got the wrestling on her side. And honestly, I don't think Melissa Martinez's striking is that much better than Elise Ardelean's. I think it is better, but not that much better. And ultimately, I think if Ardelean has improved her cardio since fighting Shauna Bannon in her debut, I think that she's going to be able to get this one by decision, just really out muscling Martinez on the feet, getting it to the ground and out transitioning her there. But if her cardio isn't in check, then I can see Martinez running away with it with volume. But I'm counting on that her cardio has improved. So it's a bit of a flip of the coin, but with the experience and the strength and the wrestling, I'm going to be taking Ardelean by a decision as the underdog win. Now, moving up the card to Jessica Penne versus Elise Reed. Elise Reed, She's got power in her hands. She literally fought Martinez on the fight before that we've just analyzed, and she sat Martinez on her ass in the first round and beat her to a decision. And that was really not only just because she dropped her on her ass, but it's because of her physical capabilities when it comes to the clinch game. She's stronger there, and I think she's going to be stronger than Penne. But Penne, you've got to obviously realize Penne, she's one of the OGs from the Tough 20 series, so she's without a doubt got way better experience in her career, but she's 41 years old at that lightweight class. So that is just really not good in terms of her speed. And I think Elise Reed, she's not the fastest, but also just when it comes to her strength, along with just being able to be as fast as Jessica Penne, I'm not liking this for Jessica ultimately. 41, getting to the end of her days realistically, there's just not much for her to offer. If she does get to the ground and she's in guard, she has a chance to submit Reed. Obviously, she's a BJJ black belt, but aside from being good off her back, on the feet, she doesn't really offer much. She has poor head movement. She doesn't check leg kicks very well. I mean, Emily Ducote, when she fought her, Emily Ducote landed 51 out of 58 leg kicks against her. So when she's on the feet, she's a bit of a statue, and the age just isn't going to be helping that. And honestly, I think Reed is just going to, just like Ardelean, I think she's just going to be able to outmuscle her to a decision win here. Just ultimately just doing a bit more damage on the feet and outmuscling her in those clinch exchanges. And yeah, just getting the unanimous decision win in this one. Now moving up the card to Joselyne Edwards versus Tamires Vidal, our last women's fight on the card. Now this one, I think will probably be one of the better ones of the three that we've got. And I do honestly have a more confident pick in this one. Now, on the feet, they both land over 60% of their strikes, but overall, in terms of accuracy, Joselyne Edwards is just better. Her output is just better. She has longer reach. She trains out of a better camp as well. I mean, she trains through King's MMA, and she just has better sparring partners. She trained with Valentina Shevchenko and was one of her main sparring partners against Grasso in their third fight. So Joselyne Edwards just has that pedigree around her. Vidal's out of a pretty unknown gym, to be honest. And Vidal just, honestly, she just hasn't impressed so far, to be honest. She has a BJJ base, but doesn't really have any offensive threat that we've seen so far. She's on the feet, she's very sloppy. She's got power, but she's very sloppy on the feet, just in terms of technical capabilities as well. And Joselyne Edwards is going to be able to find those holes. And I think she's going to overrun her on the feet. I think she can overrun Vidal on the ground, just like Gato did as well. Overran her absolutely everywhere and got the first ever TKO with a boob punch. Never seen that before, but Vidal's the victim of that, so it can only get worse from here. So Joselyne Edwards, overall, I'm taking her by unanimous decision win in this one. I honestly could see a third round KO TKO here. Wouldn't even be surprised with that. But Edwards overall, just in every avenue of the game, I think she is just honestly better. Moving up the card, Brad Katona versus Jean Matsumoto. Now, this is an interesting fight because stylistically, this is definitely a puzzle. Brad Katona, very aggressive when it comes to just any fight. It's very just high output, high pace, whether it's on the ground, whether it's on the feet. And Jean Matsumoto, this guy has a lot of momentum behind him. He's 15-0 and now 2-0 in the UFC so far in particular. And he has, honestly, he's taken on someone that has had a similar pace to Katona. He fought Argueta and took him out with a submission, but it's good for Matsumoto in coming into this matchup fighting Argueta because he's able to weather a storm that Katona could possibly bring. And along with that submission, he's now 9-0 with submissions. And that's something that Katona's never been finished and is very crafty. But Matsumoto, he is dangerous absolutely everywhere. Very well-rounded. Not many holes that I've actually seen in this game, even on the regional scene. Very fast on the feet, very good straight strikes, good clean combinations, very accurate on the feet. Doesn't just throw insane flurries. He's very technical, very articulate in the way that he just measures and throws his strikes. and he has fantastic leg kicks. He loves the 1-2 leg kick combination. I mean, he's done Muay Thai and BJJ since he was in the bloody womb, so he's always got those leg kicks on lock. He's got the submissions on lock, but you can't count out Brad Katona. Katona is a dog. Honestly, just a Tasmanian devil. He's got a great striking acumen in those high pressure fights. And obviously he has the better experience overall in terms of pedigree, but the only way I can see Katona really winning this is by honestly maintaining like some actual good top control on this fight, because if he can't maintain top control for 15 minutes, he's not going to be able to submit Gene Matsumoto, or he's not going to I don't think he's going to outstrike him on the feet. I think Matsumoto is just too measured in both avenues. And for Katona to hold him down for 15 minutes and not getting caught in a submission, I think is going to be a pretty impressive feat, and I don't think Matsumoto is going to let that happen. And that's where that fight against Argueta, being in the storm, really having to, you know, pressure out of those clinch situations, those situations on the ground that Argueta got him in, Matsumoto isn't just going to be sitting down for Brad Katona. So ultimately, I think Gene Matsumoto is the safer pick here. I'm going to be taking him by a decision though. I think he is going to be able to land just the better shots, more damage. I think he can get Katona in some dangerous situations. But with Katona being so durable and obviously so crafty as a veteran that he is, I think that he's not going to be able to get into a submission situation where it's going to actually pull through for Gene Matsumoto unless he hurts him badly. But Brad Katona, Gene Matsumoto, both very durable, both have chins, both have taken damage. Neither of them have ever been finished. Obviously Matsumoto's never lost a fight, but having such a crazy fight with durable chins, great striking, and great wrestling / grappling exchanges on both sides, honestly, this is going to be a fantastic fight. And I think Gene Matsumoto is going to be able to take the first 2 rounds, just really overwhelming Katona with those precise strikes. But then I think Brad Katona, especially with his gas tank, I think he's going to overtake in the 3rd round with that better cardio and just getting the win off mainly that ground control. But too little, too late. And it's going to be Gene Matsumoto getting the 29-28 decision here. Now moving on to our feature prelim, Matheus Nicolau versus Asu Almabayev. This is a fantastic fight for a feature prelim, and it only gets better from here. Honestly, the main card is pretty stacked. This, honestly, even the prelims itself have been pretty stacked. I mean, we're starting off with Robelis, Despaigne, and Austen Lane, which Robelis is going to be able to put on a show. But looking at this fight in particular, I mean, fantastic fight, but easily one of the hardest fights to pick, if not the hardest on this whole entire card. Honestly, don't bet on this fight because I know Nicolau has had some interesting performances recently, obviously getting knocked out twice, once by Royval, once by Perez. But Asu Almabayev, obviously him being on an insane win streak, he hasn't lost in 8 years. Nicolau stylistically is not someone that is going to lay down for Almabayev. He's very, very tricky. One of the trickier matchups stylistically for Almabayev to take. So this is a huge test for him. And also, he can pump up double his rank. Number 7 to number 14. This is a huge opportunity for Asu Almabayev. Now, when we look at them stylistically, Almabayev, beautiful takedowns, great control, relentless pressure. He's like a baby Khabib, and absolutely pretty much no cardio issues for the pace that he is able to set. He, aside from against like CJ Vergara in like the end of the 3rd round, he was getting a little bit slower. Man, he was wrestling the whole entire time at a ridiculous pace, like attempted, I think 20 to 30 takedowns. Like ultimately, it's safe to say he's not really going to be losing out on the cardio department. And then we look at Matheus Nicolau, obviously, BJJ black belt. Very nice striking as well. Good, clean counter striking. But Nicolau obviously wants to get this on the ground in an advantageous position because we know his chin's been cracked. Asu Almabayev, very sneaky with kicks. Very sneaky with kicks, head, body, legs, wherever you want it. Spinning body kicks, head kicks up top with the switch kicks. He is dangerous and can really catch you off guard because he's 5'4". 5'4", very small. You expect him to be better with the boxing. Nicolau is the better boxer out of the two of them. I'm pretty safe to say that. But Nicolau getting this to the ground and getting it into an advantageous position in the grappling is going to be hard because being 5'4", Almabayev has the lower center of gravity. So getting him down is going to be very difficult. But if he can stay on the feet and he can keep Almabayev out of range, which is going to be hard with a 1-inch reach advantage, not much. Nicolau does have the cleaner combinations on the feet and is very fast with his straight strikes down the pipe, but I'm just not liking it in terms of Nicolau being able to stay on the feet the whole time because of Almabayev's, very sneaky kicks. And then when we look at the ground game, obviously Almabayev being able to take Nicolau down, that's where it's a very big question because Nicolau has a 93% takedown defense, which would make this extremely hard. But the hold that I've found here, which is the exact same in UFC 300 when Aljamain Sterling fought Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar had, I believe it was a 93% takedown defense as well. The 93%, the statistic is inflated. It's not a true representation because Nicolau hasn't fought amazing, just straight wrestlers that have been wanting to take him down because of his significant BJJ threat from the guard. So that is where it's inflated. Now, Almabayev is not going to be someone that is scared of taking Nicolau down because he is so good transitionally on the ground. And that's where Nicolau is going to run into a bit of trouble. And that's where I see Almabayev just being able to edge out this win just by able to transitioning around Nicolau, really just getting damage, the pot shots on the ground, and just being able to just win those chess battles on the ground. I think on the feet, just depends how they match up stylistically in terms of what game plan they really come out with. Almabayev coming out with the kicks, Nicolau with the hands, honestly, it could seriously just be completely cancelled out. And then it comes to the ground game. And Almabayev, 9-0 with submissions, very defensively aware when it comes to the ground game. Like submissions, when people are throwing him up at him, he knows what to do. And with Nicolau being on the bottom like that and Almabayev being able to break out of submission attempts and control him, that's where he is going to edge it. That's where he's going to get the decision win. I think he's going to get it in the last 2 rounds. I think Nicolau is going to come out with some clean boxing, some clean counter shots in the first round to steal it, but then Almabayev is just going to turn on in the second and third round, make it dirty on the ground, and get this win and get into the top 10. And moving on to the main card, Darren the GOAT Elkins versus Daniel Pineda. Now, this also is just definitely a fight you don't want to bet on because between these two, statistically, just the way they both fight, the way they've gone through their UFC careers, anything can fucking happen in this fight. I mean, this is either going to end very early and brutally, or it's going to be an absolute war leading into a decision. And that's why, to be honest, fair enough, that's why this is on the main card. I don't have any argument against it because there's going to be blood, most likely from Elkins, and there's just going to be a high chance of someone getting finished in this fight. It's either that or we're getting a war. I mean, win-win, let's be honest here. Now, looking at Elkins, he looked very good in his fight against TJ Brown, which was his last fight. He looked very good transitionally, very good timing on his takedowns, and great scrambles as well. So great out of bad positions, and cardio wasn't even an issue, and the guy's like 80 years old, which is so impressive. And then Pineda is a guy that is obviously 1 year younger, which at that age can make a big difference. And he has fought much better competition recently, like regardless of the outcomes. I mean, he's fought borderline ranked level opposition. He's fought Alex Caceres. He's fought Nate Wood as well. It's fairly competitive with Nate Wood too. And ultimately, he just struggled with the speed there. But if the speed was up to par, then he'd be looking good. But and you look at Elkins,
the speed is not the same as Nate Woods. So Pineda is going to have some relief going into this fight. But when there's going to be, which there is going to be, a heavy exchange, honestly, putting that speed into play and just the way that they both fight, I think Pineda's going to get the KO TKO win here. I think he's going to get it at the end of the first or the start of the second round. Just a clean hook off the break, and then I think he's just going to ground and pound Elkins out. I love Elkins. He's honestly so entertaining. He always brings wars. But being 40 years old now, going against someone that has never, ever had a win by decision, because he's finished all of his wins, all 28 by KO, TKO, and submission, it's honestly very difficult. Like, I mean, Elkins, if he can just have beautiful clinic of wrestling for the 3 rounds, then he could win this. I think he could win by decision, or if he can land some lucky shot in the obviously in the clinch or something, then yeah, fair enough, he could, because Pineda, he has lost fights and he has gotten chinny up until this point. But if any of them are going to be getting chinned here, I'm favoring Daniel Pineda to be the one to chin Elkins.
Now moving up the card to Brady Hiestand versus Jake Hadley. Now this is an interesting matchup because Jake Hadley is only in his second fight at bantamweight at 135 pounds, but he looked great in his 135 pound debut, which was against Callum Loughran at UFC 304, because he was able to dictate the pace the entire time, was working very well on the outside as well, and he flicked his jab and his 2 down the pipe so consistently all the time. His striking looked very good, and I mean, it did help because Callum Loughran's bloody fat brick head wasn't moving, and it never does. But Jake Hadley looked fantastic in that performance. I mean, he's never been finished as well, and he's pretty well rounded overall. But Hiestand is not Callum Loughran. Hiestand, he is a guy that is just a dog. He is more accurate on the feet than Hadley, is faster on the feet than Hadley. Straight strikes, possibly, you know, probably about even, but Hiestand just overall with the hooks, uppercuts, I think he's just a bit quicker. And also, this is without a doubt his natural weight class, and probably cuts a bit more than Hadley does. He's just a bit bigger overall, which is going to be causing issues for Hadley in the strength department, I do believe, in this fight. And that's what you don't want against Hiestand, who is the superior wrestler here. He is very good with his takedown offense, very, very good transitionally. Transitions, best part of Hiestand's game, because he had an absolutely amazing performance against Garrett Armfield. He was just transitioning so well, even after escaping an armbar, which almost snapped his arm. He got hurt, he got dropped, and not only just being able to out-transition Garrett Armfield, he was able to keep his cardio up better than Armfield and then also submit him. So it's really hard to doubt Brady Hiestand against a guy who's fought a guy like Garrett Armfield, who I arguably think is better than Jake Hadley. So, I mean, MMA math never maths, but honestly, I think Brady Hiestand is that guy that really needs to be looked out for outside those, obviously outside the top 15 in the bantamweight division, because if he's putting on performances like that, he will be shooting straight up to the top 15. No ifs, ands, or buts. He will be getting absolutely shoved up there without a doubt, because it's not only the entertainment factor, he's showing such a well-rounded game. And honestly, I think just with the speed, the forward pressure, the takedown offense, and just his grappling overall, I think it's just going to be a nightmare for Hadley stylistically and just realistically when it comes to the size as well overall. I think the transitional capabilities is really going to, I think that's just really going to frustrate Jake Hadley in this fight. And I'm going to say I'm really high on Hiestand, and I think he's going to be the first one to actually finish Jake Hadley in this fight. I think he's going to get it done by submission in round 2, possibly by out-transitioning Jake Hadley, getting his back, and sinking in a rear naked choke to get this one done. Moving up the card, Charles Johnson versus Sumudaerji. Charles Johnson, I love this guy. This guy is entertaining, but he also gets me to win all my bets too. Every card he's on, he opts wins all the bets, and because he's 3-0 in 2024 alone, he is on a fantastic form. He's well-rounded, and that is going to be the big issue in this fight, because Sumudaerji, as lethal as he is on the feet, obviously 13-0 with KOs,
Charles Johnson has just got the depth there. They look on the feet, they both are pretty even. I obviously give the KO power overall to Sumudaerji, but in terms of statistics, they both throw 5 strikes per minute, around that, and they land over just over half the strikes they attempt as well. So it's pretty even on the feet in terms of that, just statistically. But Sumudaerji, I'm gonna say, look, him being a big flyweight, and he's got great KO power, and he is a natural striker, but the hole is there. It's his ground game. 1-6 with submissions. He just looks like a sitting duck on the ground. And Charles Johnson, ultimately, I'd say, is just an overall better striker. But he's 3-0. He's 3-0 in 2024. He's 3-0 with submissions. I mean, he flatlined Josh Fan. I mean, this guy, if he gets through Sumudaerji, it's his ticket straight into the top 15. I mean, he's ranked 17th right now, and I'm telling you, he is going to punch it, because he is going to get Sumudaerji to the ground. He is going to be able to submit him. He's going to be able to do it in the first or the second round, without a doubt. I mean, Charles Johnson's never been finished himself. He is very durable, very good on the ground when it comes to submission defense, which he obviously does not need to worry about in this fight. And yeah, I think he's just going to get a rear naked choke finish here, honestly, in the first round. I think that's Sumudaerji, just a sitting duck. No defense, honestly. I mean, takedown defense isn't that great either, and on the ground it's just abysmal. Transitional awareness is out the window, and I mean, when he fought him, Tim Elliott absolutely cakewalked him. And Charles Johnson, statistically, stylistically, and obviously with momentum, he's getting the win here. Now, moving up to the co-main event, we have Rob Font versus Kyler Phillips. Now, this is an interesting matchup because statistically on the feet, both of these guys have high outputs. They're both very durable as well, and they land at a very, very clean clip when it comes to their boxing. Both are very accurate with their boxing games, and honestly are pretty much borderline even just across that board. But overall, Kyler Phillips, similar to Charles Johnson against Sumudaerji, the guy has more depth to his game. Kyler Phillips is a guy that has very good takedown offensive threat. He's got submissions there, obviously not, it's not the prime area of his game. I mean, he's been in jiu-jitsu since he was like 2 years old, but he is a very, very versatile striker, very dynamic, very good MMA game. Very good with his just MMA. Very good at mixing things together seamlessly. And against a guy like Rob Font, who is arguably, honestly, probably the most one-dimensional fighter in the top 15, I think this is the best matchup Kyler Phillips could get to break into the top 10. Now, Rob Font, you can't count him out, but 8 years older than Kyler Phillips at the moment. Kyler Phillips is on some nice form at the moment. And look, Font, he works very well behind the jab. Very nice straight strikes. I mean, we saw what he did to Adrian Yanez, but just too one-dimensional. He's too one-dimensional. Phillips, if Font can't knock him out, Phillips is just so defensively aware, very good at keeping his guard up at all times. I just think that Kyler is going to be able to mix up his game so well to the point where he's going to be able to take Rob Font down Corey Sandhagen style. And then honestly, I just think even at range, he's got the kicks there, better kicks than Rob Font. He's going to chop at the legs, hit the body, flick up at the head. He mixes it all up very well. Clean boxing exchanges as well. There's just not really many holes for Kyler Phillips overall. I mean, if he fights like Umar Nurmagomedov or something like that, like he'll have holes in terms of just being outmatched in the wrestling. But Kyler Phillips is a guy, especially at this level against a guy like Rob Font, he just doesn't have holes. I mean, he's fought pretty good fighters as well. Like, I mean, he fought Song Yadong. I mean, he outstruck Song Yadong and ate his best shots as well. And honestly, if Kyler Phillips is eating shots from Song Yadong, I just don't really see Rob Font having a lot to offer there. And look, Font is more experienced. I mean, he's had the better opposition, without a doubt. I mean, he's fought the cream of the crop at bantamweight realistically. But the thing that I'm worried about with him, especially with Kyler Phillips and that striking, is not so much that Kyler Phillips is going to take him out. It's the fact that it's a 3-round fight, and that's going to elevate the pace for Kyler Phillips with that boxing, with those kicks. And the biggest issue for Rob Font in that scenario is his scar tissue. He's taken a lot of damage over the years, and his face is pretty much always a mess when he goes against high level strikers. And even if it's close on the feet, which I believe it will be, I mean, that's just going to be the main way that Phillips is going to push out a decision win here. That, along with the wrestling exchange, is really just going to be able to out transition and just take over Rob Font on the ground. Too many weapons for Kyler Phillips. Rob Font is going to struggle with that. He's going to get some good shots off at the first round with the jab, with the straight strikes, but Kyler Phillips, too dynamic, too unpredictable. He's going to be able to get this done by a 30-27 decision overall. And moving on to the main event, we have Anthony Hernandez versus Michel Pereira. I am so keen for this fight. One of the main events of fight nights that I've been most keen for since it's been announced in terms of just the whole entire year roster we've got of main event fights for fight nights, without a doubt, because these guys, stylistically, and the clashes that they have, this fight is going to be absolutely insane with the pace, just with the dynamic abilities of Hernandez, with the wrestling, the ground game. Obviously, Michel Pereira with the capoeira style going absolutely nuts. Backflip 360 Showtime kick to the face while grounded, most likely. Honestly, it's just going to be insane. And we've got so many big questions in this fight. And as I've said before in multiple videos, the more questions there are in fights, the better it just makes fights. And one of the big questions is Michel Pereira's cardio. How well is it going to hold up, and how does it translate to the middleweight division? Because we've never seen this guy outside of the first round in middleweight. He has gone 3-0 in middleweight, all in the first round, all devastating finishes. And then we look at Hernandez, and how can Hernandez deal with Michel Pereira's, dynamic style on the feet? But also, can Michel Pereira survive Hernandez's transitional capabilities on the ground and survive, not getting submitted? So it's very, very interesting to see how it's actually going to go in terms of those clashes from the ground game to the stand-up, and whether they can get the better of each other in each other's worlds. Because Anthony Hernandez on the feet, no slouch, good boxing, mixes it up very well, arguably better than Pereira. But Pereira, obviously, the KO power, just the physical presence he has is insane, especially at middleweight now. He is a freak. And obviously, Michel Pereira on the ground, the guy is 9-1 with submissions. He does have pretty good transitions, and honestly can just use brutal strength to just really clamp down on submissions anyway, which ultimately you really need to watch out for if you're Anthony Hernandez regardless. And when we look at Pereira as well, 20-2 with finishes. Very, very lethal. And moving up to middleweight is only amplifying that, because no weight cut, he's looking a lot healthier, his stamina is going to be in more check, just better check as well. And look, I think the best, going nitty gritty in this fight, I think the best shot that Michel Pereira has is really ripping Hernandez with the left hook to the body. He has a good left hook to the body and good left overhand as well, and he really needs to be ripping Anthony Hernandez's body, because Anthony Hernandez, he's only been finished once in the KO/TKO department, which was against Kevin Holland, but that was from him getting kneed to the solar plexus, and then also he lost against Marcos Perez by submission after he got clipped by a liver kick and then choked out. So he's never been chinned, but that body is something that can be a liability. Now, I hype Anthony Hernandez up a lot. I love this guy. He is in my underrated fighters in every division video. He is my middleweight pick, because he is without a doubt the epitome of underrated. He's not the best in any department, but he is so gritty. He's a dog. He can literally just get a win out of anything. And this fight, honestly, I don't think you should bet on this, to be honest. It is so close. It is so hard to pick, because there can be wins in all 6 departments from any of these guys. It is very difficult to say. Now, looking at Michel and his striking specifically, obviously with the body shots, he does have like a very good arsenal of strikes, as we all know. I mean, he has an arsenal of strikes that is honestly longer than my fucking lifespan. The guy has so many different kicks, it is ridiculous, and they can catch you from anywhere. And him, just like Khamzat Chimaev, is one of the most dangerous first round fighters in the UFC, without a doubt, because he's so strong, he's so dynamic and so unorthodox. He can catch you in the weirdest of places. And honestly, in the first 2 rounds, Hernandez needs to be extremely careful. Otherwise, he could easily get chinned here, without a doubt, because Pereira, he could honestly take out anyone on his best day. To be honest, I think he honestly could. Anthony Hernandez, look, on the other side, he's someone that really needs to be looked out for if it gets anywhere near the 3rd round and onwards, because that's when I think Michel Pereira, even though he's at 185 now, he's rejuvenated a bit. You know, he's looking healthier than he was at 170. He's actually not missing weight. He's still something that he needs to be careful of, because Hernandez has a very good gas tank. He's someone that is definitely not going to fade quicker than Michel Pereira will. Michel Pereira is going to definitely fade before him. Now, that being said, emphasizing that with proof, Michel Pereira, his only loss in the UFC is when he missed weight against Connolly at 170. He hit 172 pounds. And honestly, he was just dragging out in the later rounds. Like, he was just getting controlled pretty much most of the time. And against a guy like Anthony Hernandez, who is very good with his transitions on the ground and is very lethal on the ground with his submissions, Pereira cannot afford to get tired, because if he gets tired, Hernandez will submit him. So the real question is, Anthony Hernandez late submission for me, or Michel Pereira early KO TKO with me? Because Hernandez is a guy with the submissions. He submitted Rodolfo Vieira, who is a wizard on the ground. He's got very good guillotines, very good rear naked chokes, and Michel Pereira clearly cannot leave himself there. Otherwise, he is done, especially if that head is locked on and his muscle mass, all that whole heavy body that he has, is passed from side control. Then Anthony Hernandez is easily going to be able to choke him out. I have no doubt in that, especially if it's 3rd, 4th to the 5th round. But honestly, the striking and the arsenal overall of Michel Pereira with a better gas tank overall, I'm going to take him. I'm going to risk it. I think Michel Pereira, if this was at 170, obviously Anthony Hernandez isn't fighting there, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I would be taking Anthony Hernandez. Or if there's a fighter like him, I would be taking Anthony Hernandez. But Michel Pereira at middleweight is a different fucking beast. This guy is a freak. He is so good for middleweight. He looks massive there. He has bullied all the fighters he has fought. I mean, when he fought Ihor Peteria, it looked like a grown man just like booting a kindergarten kid. Like, it was ridiculous. He absolutely abused him. And Michel Pereira, he's not going to do that to Hernandez, I don't think. I think Hernandez can keep himself safe in situations, but the onslaught itself, I think that Michel Pereira just really mixing it up, getting the flurries going, flicking shots to the body. If he weakens Hernandez once in those first 2 rounds, I think he's taking him out for sure. And honestly, I think he does hurt the body, but I think the flurries are going to be a bit too much for Hernandez. I think he does find a good shot, a good hook just to drop him, gets the ground and pound and gets the TKO and gets it done, gets much closer into that top 10 and is looking, especially if he's getting this done in the first 2 rounds, which I think he is going to, he's looking straight for a top 5 opponent, because the UFC love this guy. Now, moving on to the Fight Card Awards and kicking it off with Fight of the Night, I'm giving it to Brad Katona versus Gene Matsumoto, because as I said in their fight analysis, their prediction, honestly, you have guys that are durable, especially more so at the lighter weights as well, that are durable, and they have very good, well-rounded games, whether it's really crisp striking, just high pace. you know, it's just a recipe for just a lot to go on in a fight and for it to be very close. I think these guys are going to just hit at a ridiculous clip, ridiculous volume. Honestly, strikes probably over 5 landed per minute for both of them. Wouldn't even be surprised. The ground game transitions, Brad Katona's wrestling to Gene Matsumoto's grappling transitions to find the submission. Seriously, I just don't think we're missing much in this fight, and that's why I'm happy to make it my fight of the night. And moving on to performance of the night, I'm giving it to the boy Charles Johnson. This guy, honestly, 3-fight win streak in 2024. He is going to get a 4th. Sumudaerji, honestly, it's just the golden key. It's the keyhole that Charles Johnson's going to slip straight through for, get the guy to the ground, find the rear naked choke, and submit him in the first round. Now, moving on to the fighter to watch, I'm giving it to Kyler Phillips. I know he's higher up the card, but this guy is a dark horse. I mean, I put Mario Bautista in my underrated fighters. Don't hate me. I know a lot of people hate him right now after what happened with Jose Aldo, but Kyler Phillips, he is the other guy on that coin. He is the guy on the other side of the coin. He is very dangerous. Never been finished. Never been finished. Has a very well-rounded game. Is very young still as well. And he honestly has the ability to really put on a show against a one-dimensional Rob Font to break him straight into that top 10. And then people are going to be watching him. People are going to take notice of him. So obviously, I'm going to have him as my fighter to watch in this card. And moving on to finish of the night, we are winding all the way back to the first fight, which is going to be Robelis Despaigne. Robelis Despaigne, he is just the better striker. He is going to absolutely decimate Austen Lane. And really, I think it's a smart move putting this fight as the first fight of the night, just to really kick everything into gear. And ultimately, I think that, yeah, after that Waldo Cortez Acosta loss, with that wrestling really taking him out, I think that takedown defense is going to be improved, and that is going to ultimately stop the only way Austen Lane is going to win this fight. And Robelis Despaigne is going to chin the guy in the first round. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more MMA based content, definitely check out my video on the screen, which is UFC's best matchups to make in every division, which obviously is going through the 2 best fighters in each division, pairing them up, and me explaining, giving a full analysis as to why they are the best matchup to make in every division. And please like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.